I wanted to become rich very fast. So I used to trade with 100 shares, 500 shares. And when I would make money, then immediately I would jump into 1,000 shares or 2,000 shares. And whatever money I would make in 5 and 10 trades, I would lose in one single trade. So this keeps on happening. Yeah, so I couldn't create any money. I couldn't save any money even for 10 years. I keep on struggling. Sera Sanitary was remarkable. Sera Sanitary gave me 16,000 times return. Wow. My investment philosophy is very simple. I am following an acronym called SMILE. That is small in size, medium in experience, large in aspiration, extra large market potentials. I would say luckily, I was in class 10th. Okay. And I failed in the exam. You know, so that was luckily I would say that I failed in the exam. Okay. So the education chapter was also over for me. Okay. So then as I said, that I understood very clearly that I have to stand up on my feet. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to support my family.
Hello everyone. I'm at the 6th edition of the Dhanam BFSI Summit, and here with me today is one of India's most followed investors, who is celebrated for his exceptional ability to pick multi-bagger stocks at early growth stages. Welcome, Mr. Vijay Kedia. So you're a market veteran and you've been in the market for over 30 years. You entered the stock market quite young. Can you elaborate on how you entered the stock markets and how it started out for you?
It was maybe by compulsion or maybe optional, I don't know about it. But in fact, my father was a trader into stock market. Okay, and my grandfather was a stockbroker in Kolkata. Okay. So I can say that that was in the family, that was in my blood only. Okay. But my father was not a broker. He wanted to do something on his own, in the sense like he was a trader only. Okay. So when I was 14 years of age, so that time my father died, you know. So we were living in a joint family. So, and a lot of people, 21 people living in just, you know.
This is in Kolkata?
In Kolkata, yeah. So then I understood, and we were 4 of us, like 4 siblings, 2 brother and 2 sister, including me. So, and joint family, big family. So I understood one thing very clearly, that now it's time to stand up on my own feet. Because joint family, sometimes there are, you know, there are harmony and sometimes there are fights, you know. So I understood this thing. So I was not interested in broking and all. So there and then I decided that I should do something on my own. And luckily, I would say luckily, I was in class 10th. Okay. And I failed in the exam. You know, so that was luckily I would say that I failed in the exam. Okay. So the education chapter was also over for me. Okay. So then as I said, that I understood very clearly that I have to stand up on my feet. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to support my family, because our relation with uncles and were not very harmonious, not good. So then, and trading was the only thing which can be done without any education, without any qualification, and without any skill. It was just like gambling, you know. So then I started started my career as a trading, but officially when I turned 19, then I joined the stock market. Then I joined the ring. Okay. Started going into the stock market. Somehow I did my graduation also in the meantime. And then from 19, I started trading into stock market. Okay.
And you're coming from a family which was heavily into trading, right?
Not in trading. Everybody was into broking. Only my father was into trading. Okay. And everybody was into broking.
Okay. So what shifted what made you shift and focus on
because
investment?
That time broking was a poor business. Okay. Brokers were poor, unlike today in Mumbai. And in Kolkata that also. Kolkata brokers were very poor, you know, so far wealth is concerned. So, and I did not want to do that kind of business where you have to, you know, please your client for 5 rupees, for 10 rupees, for 50 rupees brokerage. Unlike today, broking has become like bossy, like a boss kind of business. That time the broking was like this, like a servant, you know, you are serving somebody. So I didn't want to do that. So I told my grandfather, I'm not interested in broking and all. I want to trade, I want to do something on my own. So uncles were not interested in that. They thought that maybe he will make us bankrupt. So we split, we got money, we separated from the family, and I started doing my own thing.
So when you started trading, were you making money in the initial few years?
Yeah, initially period I was making money because I understood, later on I understood that luck favors you.
Okay.
Because that time I did not have any baggage, I did not have any knowledge. So only thing I had was maybe my intuition, you know. So that intuition used to work. So initially I was successful, but successful means I used to trade for 100 shares, 500 shares, 200 shares.
Okay.
There was profit and loss of 100 rupees, 500 rupees, 200 rupees. This is how I started.
Okay.
So even 100 rupees was, too big a sum for me.
Back then.
And I made 100 rupees today. So initial it was okay. But by and by as we progress, because I wanted to become rich very fast. So I used to trade with 100 shares, 500 shares, and when I would make money, then immediately I would jump into 1,000 shares or 2,000 shares, and whatever money I would make in 5 and 10 trades, I would lose in one single trade. So this keeps on happening. Yeah, so I couldn't create any money, I couldn't save any money even for 10 years. I keep on struggling like this, yeah.
So what made, was losing money the reason why you shifted your focus to investing?
Yeah, because I couldn't save any money. Even after 10 years, I was just because I had to support myself, my family in the sense. So that much money only I could make. Beyond that, I couldn't save because I used to gamble big. I used to put all the money on stake.
Okay.
So after 10 years, I realized that this is not the kind of life I ever wished or I wanted to live because I'm not saving any money. Then I thought maybe this trading is not my forte. So initially it was, but maybe now it's not in my thing. Then I switched my focus to investing.
So you started investing, you shifted to Bombay and then you started investing, or you started investing in
around
Kolkata
same
itself?
time when I shifted to Mumbai, that time only, just before shifting to Mumbai, just I started, and only one trade, shares I had invested.
Okay.
So with that mind, when I focus on my investing, then I thought maybe Mumbai is the most, is the Makkah of investing, financial capital. So maybe I should try my career in Mumbai. So I shifted to Mumbai in my third attempt.
How much capital did you start with when you invested, and which stock was that?
So when I invested during that 10 years of my what you call trading, I said that every time I used to make money, but my stake was bigger, my next stake was bigger. So at one point of time I had saved some 35,000 rupees in 10 years of struggle. So I saved 35,000 rupees. So that 35,000 rupees I did not trade with. I invested that money in a stock, and that stock multiplied 3, 4, 5 times in a 2-3 years of time frame. Okay. So that gave me a lot of confidence that investing is working.
Which stock was that?
That was Punjab Tractor. Now that company was sold to Mahindra.
Okay. You sold that, and then from the proceeds of that, you went on to buy more shares?
Yeah, because that time, luckily, that was 1990 when I started my journey, this investing journey. Okay. So I made that money in Punjab Tractor. So whatever money I got from that sale proceeds, I invested into another company. So again, my focus was, my style, my pattern was same, that whatever money I used to have,
invest in one stock.
I invested in one stock at that point of time, or maybe 2 stocks.
Okay.
But invest entire money, whatever money I am having, I would invest entire money. I wouldn't think about the future, what is going to happen tomorrow. Okay. So that the same attitude remains the same. Earlier it was into trading, now it was into investments. Okay. So whatever money I got, I invested in another company, that was ACC, and luckily in 2 years time it went up by 10 times. So this is how it started.
Okay. Late 1990s and 2000 as well, there was huge market crashes. How did you deal with that while you were investing?
No, in the sense, since my focus was into investing now, but still my trading habit was still there. Okay. But of course the volume was less compared to my worth. My worth was not that big, but compared to now, but it was a little bit addiction. That addiction, as I said, that addiction of trading is something like drug. Yes. It's very difficult to escape from it. Yeah. So that continued, but rise and fall would come. But I still I remained invested into the market, and so that is okay. Obviously, suppose if I made 10 lakhs rupees, when the crash came into the market, the 10 lakhs became 5 lakhs rupees. That is all right, but it was sufficient for me to survive.
Was your conviction so strong that you doubled down on these investments And then bought more shares when the stock markets crashed?
No, because that time I did not have money to buy again.
Okay.
You know, because whatever I had, I would
fully invested.
Yes, I was every time I was fully invested.
Okay.
Till 1990 until now 2024, we are giving this interview. Yeah. I had almost always been fully invested and no money in my pocket.
Okay. And later in 2000s, you started investing in Sera and a few other stocks as well?
Yeah, later on when as you said that I saw many crashes in the market, Harshad Mehta time crashes, then Ketan Parikh, this and that. And then in 2004-5, you know, again that was the biggest crash in the history of Indian stock market. So there is a quote of mine that every mother of bull market is followed by a mother of bear market also. So before Ketan Parikh, that was a mother of bull market. Then the mother of bear market also we saw. So in around 2003 and 4, so that was a big crash in the market. So all my stocks had also gone down by 70%, 80%.
Wow. Okay.
So I had left with very little bit of money. But one thing I did, whatever little bit money I could save, I kept aside and bought an apartment for me. Okay. You know, in Mumbai. So that was the silver lining, you can say. That was the only security with me. Okay. That even 93 I had bought one apartment. Then in 2000 I bought a bigger apartment. So that kept money aside and bought an apartment for me. So that was the only, you can say, significant, you can say, the asset which I can call. Because market asset you cannot count. As I always say that your demat statement belongs to the market and your bank statement belongs to you. Yeah. You know, your investment belongs to the market. Your profit only belongs to you. So whatever investment I had, that actually did not belong to me. And the same thing happened. Stock price fell down 75%. You know, but that was okay. So I had my own house. So I was confident and happy that okay, whenever good time will come, I will make up. Okay. So same thing had happened in 2004-5. Then I identified 3 scripts. You know. And that was, one is Sera, as you named, and 2 was Aegis Logistics and Atul Auto. And again, then whatever money I had, I invested in these 3 companies. So between 2004 and 6, so this is what happened. Yeah. So by 2007, all these shares were 2 times and 3 times from my cost price. But later on, when in 2008 the Leman Brothers crisis came, all the stocks fell down to my cost level. Oh, okay. And
from 2-3 times.
After going up 2-3 times, it came down to my cost level, and Atul Auto had fallen down below my cost price also.
Was that hard to see?
Yeah, so hard to see. Yeah. But fortunately, you can say that one good thing I did, that I sold my Aegis Logistics, which had gone up at 10 or 15 times from my cost price. So I sold that entire Aegis Logistics, which ultimately went up 300 times from my cost price. Okay. Ultimately. I couldn't take that benefit. But whatever in between that, I sold my Aegis Logistics and I held on to my position in Atul Auto and Sera Sanitary Ware.
And how much return did that give ultimately?
Atul Auto again went up 100 times.
Yes.
Atul Auto. Yes. But Sera Sanitary was remarkable. Sera Sanitary gave me 16,000 times return.
Wow. Can't even compute that.
Yeah.
16,000 times.
16,000. And the last lot I sold just 1.2% shares I held, which I sold in September 2023 after getting 16,000 times return. If I calculate dividend, then it's 16,000 times. Okay. So this is what stock market can give you. If you are a long-term investor, this is what stock market can reward you.
Is Sera are you most proud of Sera as your stock selection?
Yeah, of course. Sera, there are many shares which I'm proud of. You can say, oh, like your children here only, you know. Yeah. So, but of course, Sera gave me a handsome return, remarkable, historic. I never imagined that I would even get 16 times return, forget about 16,000 times. And I really have to calculate even now. I said this on a TV show that I made on CNBC, that I made 16,000 times. After that, again I am really calculating, was it really 16,000 times? How did it happen?
Still hard to believe.
Yeah, hard to believe for me as well. Yeah. So I don't know how you can't replicate. By thinking only you can't replicate all these things. These things happen in life.
What is your investment philosophy? What is your approach, and has it evolved over the years?
No, my investment philosophy is very simple. I am following an acronym called SMILE. That is small in size, medium in experience, large in aspiration, extra large market potentials. So I'm looking, usually I invest in small cap and mid caps and only.
Yes.
So I look for the company which is the smallest in the sector, and I feel that if the promoter has that fire in the belly, that the small in size, medium in experience. Usually I don't invest in a company which is just a new company, just 4-5 years old. I invest in the companies which are, the promoters are having an experience of 15-20 years. Because in the journey of 15-20 years, they must have fallen many times. They must have learned their lessons. Right? So that to some extent, it has made them immune to the rise and fall in the economy or in the stock market. Or forget about the stock market, because stock market is ultimately reflection of the economy.
Yes.
So ultimately they have faced the turmoil in the economy, in the country. So that is my criteria, you can call it, 15-20 years of experience and large in aspirations. They should have large ambition. If promoter don't have large aspiration, then they cannot take their company from regional to national or national to international. They can't think big.
Yeah.
If promoter won't think big, then we investor cannot make big money into the company. A promoter has to become from a millionaire to billionaire or billionaire to trillionaire. Then only we investors can become a millionaire to billionaire. We can follow them. So that aspiration is very important. But ultimately, their market size, the product which they are selling in the market, market size of the product should have immense opportunity. It should be, as I always say, that it should be something like a fish in the ocean, not a crocodile in the pond. So it has entire ocean to swim. So that extra large market potential is very important. So these are the basic things I look into the important in a company. But of course, the credibility of management and capability of the management is very important.
Yeah. So you mentioned capability of management. For a regular investor, someone who wants to follow your investment approach, how can a regular investor assess what a good management is?
Then you have to see the track record of the management. As I said that I invest in a company which is having a track record of 15, 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
So in 15, 20 years, they must have seen many phases of economy. So you have to figure it out, how did they behave in that bad times. Every company has a bad time, right? Like every individual, every economy, every country has a bad time.
Yeah.
Similarly, every company has bad time.
What are you looking for in particular during the bad times? What the management is doing?
How less the company fail.
Okay.
In bad times, how they should fall less.
Okay.
And in good times they should better than their peers.
Yes.
So that is the performance.
Okay.
So this is the one criteria I really look. That in last upswing in the economy, how fast they grew, and when there was a downturn, how less they fell.
Okay.
So this is one simple criteria I look into.
Okay, to assess management.
Yeah.
Okay. So in Kerala, you may know that we are stuck with traditional investment avenues. So most people prefer investing in gold, FDs, and real estate. What is your take on this? Do you have any suggestions?
No, of course, suggestion. Kerala is the most literate company. Literacy rate is the highest in Kerala, and in fact, and even then, people are more interested into FD and gold and all.
Yeah.
Of course, gold has also given handsome return compared to Nifty, but not compared to mid caps and all. Compared to Nifty, gold has also given, but there is no thrill into it.
Okay.
So I think that what people need. Education. People need to be literate financially. That literacy is very important here in Kerala, because it's such a successful country. So much, remittance is coming from NRI, from people and all. And even after that, literacy for investment is so poor here in Kerala. So that obviously people like you, organization like you could really spread that knowledge.
Let's talk about investment opportunities. So India is probably going to be a $10 trillion economy by 2030 from around 3.5 trillion now. So what kind of opportunities do you see in the investment space?
Of course, humongous opportunity I'm going to see. You just imagine what happened. We were, say, 1 trillion economy. India took, my data could be little bit wrong. India took, say, 60 years to reach from 1 trillion to 2 trillion. This is what I read somewhere. And then it took some 10 years from 2 trillion to 3 trillion. And now then after 3 trillion to 4 trillion is happening in 5 years. So now maybe every 4 years, India would add 1 trillion to its economy.
So are we looking at a golden era for investors coming ahead?
Of course, yes, Amrit Kal. It is, of course, a golden period just started. And just see what happened in India in last 20 years. Ever since Indian economy, Indian reforms were implemented in India, what happens after 1990? Between 30 years, just imagine what kind of return stocks have given to the investors. So humongous return has been given by the investment into stocks. So I think that same trend will continue for next 10-15 years.
So there's this old saying that buy a good stock and then forget it. Do you subscribe to that? Or in today's age where markets and economies are a little bit more dynamic, do you prefer a little less passive investment for greater wealth creation?
No, you are right. Market has become very dynamic, and so is the economy, because things are changing very fast. Technology is taking over. So maybe the technology which were relevant yesterday is obsolete today. But I think even it depends on the stocks. It depends on the sector. Not that entire sector will be disrupted. Maybe their distribution would be disrupted. The way things were. The trade were happening, business was happening, that can be disrupted. But product you cannot disrupt to a great extent until unless company is also changing itself. So there are pockets where you can buy the stocks and forget. To take example of this, I held this era for 17-18 years. Even I foresee that for next 17-18 years, demand for the sanitary ware is going to remain there. It cannot be disrupted. Ultimately, you have to use your bathroom, so that cannot be disrupted. So there are some pockets which will always be there. So there one should remain invested for long term, and there could be some pockets, like if you are investing in some technology company, then you have to be, every time you have to be on your toes, that tomorrow this technology can can change. For that you have to prepare. So there are pockets where you remain invested for 10, 15, 20 years. There are some pockets where you have to be very cautious.
So what are you investing in now? What is your investment rationale behind it also?
I am trying to catch the next trend. There is a quote of mine that stay invested in a sunrise sector at any cost, and stay out of a sunset sector at any cost. So I am always in lookout for the sunrise sector. What is the next story which is going to play out in India? What is the next theme which is going to play out in India? What is the next changes which is going to happen or taking shape in India? So that is my focus is on that changes. Look around and find the change, find the company, invest in that company at least for 5 to 10 years.
For our viewers, would you be able to recommend a couple of stocks which could have great potential for creating wealth?
No, shares I should not recommend, because I am not a SEBI registered consultant, nor I am running any broking company, nor I am a portfolio manager. I am just investing for my own family. But I can tell you that no economy like we are in Amrit Kal, and no economy can prosper without investing into infrastructure. India is way behind in infrastructure compared to other emerging economy. Forget about the developed world. Even the emerging economy, we are way behind. Now government has understood that thrust, and now they're expanding left, right and center in creating all this infrastructure and all. So I think this infrastructure companies, they are having a very good future for next 10-15 years. And so is the airlines companies are also having everything related to airlines, airport and airlines. They are also having a bright future, because just see the kind of people you will find at the airport. It seems like we are at the bus adda, whatever you call it. So this is how you have to figure out that what changes are happening in the society. So I find infrastructure is a very good theme. Telecom is a very good theme.
Oh, telecom.
Okay. Of course. Tell me one thing. Earlier we used to talk about, when we were born, we used to talk about roti, kapda or makan. That was the only three things. Nowadays we are talking about roti, kapda, makan and data. You will go on diet, but you cannot go on diet so far your data usage are concerned. Since morning to evening you are on your data only. Either on your Facebook or either on Instagram or your WhatsApp, on your call or whatever. So now data has become more important or equally important than your roti and kapda and all, or makan, equally important. So I think this roti, kapda, makan and data means telecom equipment.
Yeah.
And one more industry.
So you're focusing more on telecom equipment and service
I have
providers.
already invested. I am already invested, so I'm not making any fresh investment into that. But ultimately, we find any companies related to telecom, because now India is 4G. We are coming on 5G now. Have reached to 5G. Now again 6G will come, 7G. This way, this G will will be endless. So all these telecom companies now making a profit. So they will keep on expanding. So their telecom equipment supplier or their ancillaries, all these telecom companies will do well. And one more sector will do well, which I think is the asset management companies.
Okay.
So now my fifth edition is that roti, kapda, makan, SIP. Roti, kapda, makan, data and SIP.
Okay, SIP.
SIP or stock market you can call it. So that industry is going to boom for next 10 years. She's a kind of demat account has been opened in India is among us now. 14 crore account has been opened. Just imagine. So now this will keep on rising. This retailer investor, this retailers actually, they have taken over the market. And now the dominance of FII has become so less.
So nowadays, even if FII sells so much, it's not
doesn't
affect
matter.
the market much.
Last I remember every 5 o'clock whenever FI's stock exchange used to release the data of FI's buying and selling, I used to see what is happening, what are they doing.
Back then.
From last 2 years, I have stopped seeing the data. Forget about, they have become irrelevant. Now these retailers have really are dominating the market. So more retailers are going to join, more youth, more young people are going to join this market. So that SIP will become, a great. So all these AMC's company, like even broking company or AMC's companies or mutual fund, all these companies, these companies are going to do well.
So finally, can you give some advice to budding investors or even experienced investors and guide them on wealth creation?
I think there are so many advices, but 2-3 things you should remember. The stock market is a business. Investing is a business. If you will treat it as a gambling den, it will prove a gamble for you. So treat it as a business. The moment you give this signal to your mind that I am doing a business, I am learning a business, I am into a business, your entire mindset will change. Then you wouldn't like to become a crorepati overnight, because in business it takes time to create wealth. The majority of the people lose their money in stock market because they think that they can become a millionaire overnight. So that mindset needs to be changed. They should remember that Rome was not built in a day, but Hiroshima and Nagasaki were destroyed in a day. It's my quote. In investing, always remember that Rome was not built in a day. It takes time to create wealth. It's like a plant. You have sowed the seed, plant will come, then by and by fruits will come. It will take some time. So always in investing, remember Rome was not built in a day. And trading, remember, there is only 1% success rate in trading. Only 1%. So stay away from trading, because Hiroshima and Nagasaki were destroyed in a day. I even now today I meet people, whatever money they had made in last 2-3 years, they just lose in one trade. In one day of fall, they say that whatever money I could accumulate in 2 years, I just lost in one day because my Sensex fell 1500 points. So this is general thing. So please remember, it's very difficult to make money into trading. So better to stick to investing and only long-term investing.
Thank you so much for coming to the Dhanam BFSI Summit and spending your time with us. Thank you, sir.
Bye.